I got a few things to say about late diagnosis of autism as a female. Hi, I'm Angel. You can call me Auntie Angel. You can call me autistic. And I did not self-diagnose myself until age 51, even though I studied autism 20 years before that. When I had studied autism, the definition was different. And then in 2012 or 13, the book was rewritten, as it is frequently enough, and Aspergers was folded into the autism diagnosis, autism spectrum diagnosis. And I had seen myself in the Asperger's diagnosis when I was going to school, but I had not recognized the disability part or the challenges. I saw my gifts, my extra abilities, and I was blind to some of my disabilities. And I had this huge epiphany when I was 51, about a year and a half ago now, and realized that that blindness was caused by autism. Actually, I have this huge blind spot when it comes to not seeing things the same way that other people see things, not seeing myself the same way that other people see me. And I know that everybody has that to an extent. I've come to think of autism as for me, it's an extra kind of a thing. So yes, we all have differences. Everybody's unique. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And, you know, left-handed people and right-handed people and autistic and non-autistic people are all not exceptions to that. And I do think of autism a lot like being left-handed. Now, when you get into autism spectrum disorders, that gets a little more nuanced and complicated. And I actually have, full disclosure, have not been diagnosed from another professional. I've self-diagnosed myself with, definitely as autistic. If I have autism spectrum disorder, it's a mild case, level 1, mild. So there's not really any thing to do with that other than to be aware of it. And it does explain a lot of the challenges that I've had and a lot of the oddities and nuances of my beingness. One of the biggest clues for me was a friend of mine pointing out that I have trouble making consistent eye contact. I'm working on it right now with the camera. And like anything, it is something that we can work on. But I do think that people with autism find eye contact so intimate that it can be distracting. And for me, obviously I'm looking at a camera light right now, so that's not an explanation really of why I tend to look away. I think it's more that I think better sometimes with my eyes closed or with my eyes rolled to one side or the other or up or down. And I was completely unaware of that until just a few years ago. And then it took a couple more years after that. That's just one example. What I wanted to talk about was a question that I ran into on Quora about, was a late diagnosis for autism worth it or not? And as I mentioned, I don't have a formal diagnosis, and that's because I went to through a series of assessments trying to get that diagnosis, and it was highly traumatizing. And in the end, I was diagnosed with several other disorders, but not autism spectrum disorder. And I really don't think it was a valid assessment because the people assessing me, not a single one of 4 people actually asked me a single question about why I think I'm autistic. And then the 2 people who were the doctors who put their names on the paperwork so that everybody could get paid never met with me at all. So I find their diagnosis disturbing, insulting, and a joke. So when it came to answering that Quora question, it was a very definitive, no, it is not worth going through the process if you only have access to what I have access to, which is state-funded, ill-informed, not trauma-sensitive, just, you know, probably not the worst of the worst. There's always could be worse, but it was pretty bad. And in hindsight, I don't regret going because I feel like I needed to go through that step for my own clarity, my own process. And actually going through that convinced me even more so of my autism. It was very obvious to me. And and as I mentioned, I have a master's degree in special education. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I studied autism while I was getting that master's degree. I think I did mention that I had studied autism before. And also, yeah, I took about 6 months of deep examining, and of my whole life felt like dominoes. My whole life story fell into a different kind of place. I won't say it fell into place like in an organized, good way, but it fell into place in a way that makes a different kind of sense. And so in that regard, it was worth it to come to that realization. It's been a huge upheaval in many ways. But the thing is, I was just melting down. I'm still having meltdowns. I'm still having panic attacks. I'm still have complex PTSD. But I now see the underlying cause of that. And instead of just dealing with trauma, even though I do need to deal with trauma, I can also acknowledge that I have exceptional sensory stuff going on in my body. And because of that, early in my life, I learned to compartmentalize and shut out and block some of my bodily sensations. So I'm still untangling that, but I'm seeing the relationship between the lifelong autoimmune issues that I've had, digestive issues, inflammatory issues, and mental and physical health issues of mostly of mild sorts, but some of pretty severe. And when I put all that together, it all makes sense under the umbrella of, or through the lens of, autism. So in that regard, it has been very helpful and worth it to have the diagnosis. In my case, all I'm going to get is the self-diagnosis unless I get enough money to go to a professional who is actually qualified to give me a diagnosis. And then I'm not sure if I will, because there are things I want to do, like traveling, maybe getting a job if I ever heal enough to think about that again. And I do worry that a formal diagnosis of autism could get in the way of that. Lots of people will say it couldn't, but I don't believe them because people are liars. And on that note, I'm going to get ready for bed. That was my bedtime thought. I didn't mean for it to end so dark. I do think that that regardless of whether you or I or anyone else is autistic or not, that we all deserve compassion. We all deserve forgiveness. We all deserve patience. We all deserve we're all worthy of love, at least our own love. I've been really grappling with this, and I love myself, so at least there's that. And I hope that you love yourself. And if you do, then the world is your oyster, my darling. Whatever that means, I'm not sure. But the point is, you're worthy of your own love, and I'm worthy of my own love. And other people may come and go and may love us or not, depending on lots of different circumstances. But when we can love ourselves, regardless of whatever lens or label or anything else that we're looking through, then everything else is all right. Signing off and wishing you sweet dreams. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Talk to you soon. Stay free.